You have control of shifting the energy. Now, you might not be able to force the change of the energy of something else, but you can change your energy, your understanding immediately, just with a thought. It's mind-to-mind communication with whatever it is that you're dealing with. You are listening to the Self-Help Psychic Podcast with your host, Tabitha Stitt. I am a psychic medium, licensed school teacher, and I am here to provide you with messages from the universe, spirit, source, whatever you'd like to call this higher guiding power. Your soul's purpose is here happening right now. Are you aligned or misaligned? This podcast is going to help you discover everything you're meant to be and beyond. If you're listening to this message is for you. You can take what resonates and release the rest. If you could see me now, I'm sitting in my living room on my chaise or chase lounge, depending on what you'd like to call it. I have Axel in my lap. This is one of my little black kitty cats. I have the new fountain in the backyard for Zini girl, who has passed and is now soaring freely, something that we don't quite understand as humans. So what does your soul need now? I breathe in. I ask to receive messages for you in all ways for the highest good. So patience, 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 patience. You probably have a lot of patience. You probably have learned to breathe, to begin to recognize what the body feels like, to notice your surroundings when you're dealing with things that are out of your control. There are a lot of things that are in your control. There are so many things that are in your control. How you want your day to go is in your control. Now, how it goes can be seen a little differently, but how you want your day to go. So what does this mean? So sometimes we can find ourselves in a place of self-pity, or we can think of it as self-compassion. There's a difference there. There is a difference. Self-pity is when we get caught up in the same old, where we don't really want to get better. We would rather stay in a state of not feeling good because there are other benefits in some way. Maybe we're receiving attention. Maybe we don't have to adhere to our responsibilities. And then there's self-compassion, where we are pretty motivated, and yet something hard has come to us, something challenging emotionally. So we begin to think about, oh, you know what? I do feel for myself. I know it's hard and I can get through this. And so patience, what is this word that we come across? Now, to be completely honest, I have not thought of the word patience in a very long time, so that's why I know that this is a very legitimate message, as all my messages are. But the word patience, to me, that feels unsettling. Ugh, I don't like that word. Why do I not like that word? Because we want things really, really fast, right? And then patience is also aligned with something has gone awry. We need patience, right? But rather than thinking of it as patience, think of it as just observing, right? Think of it as you're now in a state of observing rather than doing, going. You're in the midst of the chaos. Now you are just stepping back and you are observing the situation. You have removed your immediate reaction, and instead now you are looking and taking in the energy at a different rate, at a different speed, at a different frequency. So now, when you observe rather than react, you have control. You have control. When you observe, you have control. Because what's happening is you are allowing for the immediate reaction, the immediate emotions that stem up, the subconscious emotions that stem up. You're allowing those to be at rest for a moment. You're not allowing those emotions to control. Rather than that, you are allowing the higher part of you, per se, to assess the situation in perhaps maybe a more mature manner, if you want to think of it that way. So why do we need patience though? Why do we need patience? Why do we need this state of observation? When we don't, that's when energies clash. That's when energies clash. We all have our own unique energies. We all have our own unique energies. And at any given second, any given moment, that energy can shift. It can be interrupted. It can be changed. It can be heightened. It can be saddened. It can be lowered. Just by having a memory come up, a smell comes past our nose, and all of a sudden we're taken into a memory that we don't even know is happening, and now all of a sudden we feel sad or happy. Or so these things that react or interact around our environments, they interact with our energy, and then we either react to them automatically, right, subconsciously, or usually at first it's subconscious. And then once we step back, once we observe, then we have the consciousness, the awareness of how something is happening, how something is affecting us. So for example, I keep getting this image. I don't have any children yet. Maybe someday, maybe in some way. I keep getting this image of this child like just not being happy. So reacting in some way. They're in a store. I'm envisioning a bookstore, and they're probably tired. Maybe they didn't sleep well. Maybe they were fed something that upset their belly. Maybe they're also reacting to other energies. And so the mom or the dad immediately gets upset. There's a nervousness. There's a, what will people think? You know, we all want to think that we don't really care what others think, but essentially we kind of do. That's just the human aspect. And so we now have a choice, right? So we can immediately react. Okay, so immediately you might feel tense, even if you're just observing the situation from an outside perspective. You're seeing this parent, this child. So there's a lesson here, right? This can be helpful. So do indeed observe, take in, slow down the energy, rather than what's next, I need, blah, everything's going so fast, what's next? Take in the information, right? Take in the information. So you're observing, and the child is upset, so the parent gets upset. And then now there's like this tense energy between the two. Although the parent's trying to act as best as they can, you know, they're out in public and they're trying to have this calmness about them, right? This calmness. So immediately there's a frustration, right? There might be a frustration, and I don't know what's going on. I don't understand. And so the parent comes down to the child's level, and maybe the child wants to immediately slap the parent. Depending on how old the child is, the age of the child, this can be just a normal reaction, right? The child does not yet have the maturity per se, or the intellect to understand how to deal with that emotion appropriately. Not even adults have that either. So the parent breathes, looks into the child's eyes. Okay, so now the parent is in a state of, okay, now I'm observing. My immediate reaction was frustration, but now I'm observing, I'm looking at, I'm interacting, but I am also removing my mind from the situation. I'm removing my immediate energy. I'm removing my immediate reaction. I'm allowing that to go. I'm allowing that to go to the light, or however you would like to think of it. And I'm just observing. So everything starts to stand still. Everything starts to stand still. And now all of a sudden there's a different energy. Now the child might still be reacting. The child still might be behaving in a certain way. That doesn't mean that child is bad. Maybe their behavior is a taboo or out of the norm, or is just upset. We all get this way sometimes. But now the parent feels differently. There's something that you may be experiencing differently. So this is helpful. This is helpful. This is a tool you want to use, whether you have a young child or you have a parent. Maybe you're a parent that has a parent. You're parenting your parent. Or you are in a situation where you just are observing. So, blah, blah, blah. This is kind of boring, is it not? But it's essential. It's what we need to hear. It's like we need to figure out these tools. Why are things so difficult? It's because the clashing of energies. But once you allow yourself to go a little deeper, you don't remove your entire body. You become aware of, it's like this subtleness that starts to come in. You ask to be subtle. You ask to see the situation in a different light, in a different manner. Now all of a sudden this sense of calmness comes over you. And just try it. Just try it. So we don't have to be interacting with another person for this to happen. We could be interacting with another entity of some sort, or another energy, certainly, of some sort. For example, technology. As a psychic medium, when I do this work, when I channel, when I receive, when I provide messages, when I go into this state of bliss, it feels wonderful. But then when I have to do the other side of my business, the tech part, I put everything together myself. I do all the tech, all the web. I do have a couple helpers here and there occasionally, but mostly 90% of the time, 95% of the time, I'm working both the ins and outs of my business. And it can not only get frustrating, but it gets really, really overwhelming. And there's times where I get so fed up that I cry. And so this is a message for myself as well. Okay, so we can't force a reaction. We can't force, we need to tighten up. We feel like we want to throw the computer across the room. We want to throw the phone. We want to punch something. And yet that would not be appropriate, right? That's not helpful. That causes other issues. And so we need to be aware of our immediate reaction or immediate thoughts. And then breathe, and then step back, physically step back, mentally step back. Change the energy. You have control of changing the energy. That's what this message is about. You have control of shifting the energy. Now, you might not be able to force the change of the energy of something else, but you can change your energy, your understanding immediately, just with a thought. It's mind-to-mind communication with whatever it is that you're dealing with. It's mind-to-mind communication with whatever it is that you're dealing with. And you have the power to shift the mind thoughts, the mind energy, to step back. And that is the message. That is essential. Now, not only in your day-to-day life, but also what goes on in the world. Now, we can't necessarily stop a war that is happening, a horrific situation, horrific. We can't maybe personally knock on someone's door and say, stop doing that. But we do have a reaction. We have, and what I mean by that in this instance is we have an impact. That's what I meant to say, is that we have an impact. We have an impact on others. We do. We really, really do. A lot of times we don't think that we have enough impact on that situation, and yet we do. And it can be the most subtle reaction, the most subtle interaction. And yet things shift. Things begin to heal. We all need a little bit more awareness, observation, patience, self-compassion. This isn't to say that sometimes we need a surge of spontaneity. We need a surge of go, 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 go. Those moments are good too. Those thoughtless reactions can also be a good thing as well, because they teach us. They teach us in the moment. They teach us what we don't want. We don't want someone coming at us at 1,000 miles per hour, just reacting with rage and misunderstanding. It jars us. It's scary. And so why would we want to do that to someone else? And so we begin to control the mind. We begin to recognize the mind. It's the observer, right? We have this monkey mind. We have this mind that never really shuts off. But then we have this source, this soul, this higher other part of ourselves that we can utilize to control that state of mind. This is the soul, right? This is the brain's working, the nerves are working, the neurological, the neurons, the interconnections. I'm not a brain expert, obviously. But then we have the soul that observes and helps you observe the situation. And so that is the message. That's the message. So take what you will, what stood out to you. How can you use this? If this was boring, why? Why did you feel it was boring? If this was really intriguing and this is exactly what you needed to hear, well, why? How can you use this? See, that's a thing in now, is that we consume. We have this part of us as humans, as we're consumers. Now, what is it that you're consuming? And what are you doing with this consumerism? What are you doing with it? How are you using it? Are you just taking it in and listening? That can help. Are you actually applying the information? Are you teaching this information as well? Okay, there we go. Are you recycling this information? So, to each their own, because one message can be used in a million different ways, One message can be seen and heard in a million different ways. All of our perspectives are different. So what you heard, I heard differently. And what I heard, you heard differently. And that's the beauty in receiving messages from this intellectual being, this being of light, this consciousness, this God, this higher self of ours. And so it is. Thank you so much for listening. If you have a question that you want answered about spirit, empowering yourself, or how to manifest a life you truly love, head on over to tabithastitt.com/podcast and submit your question there. Until next time, continue to tap into your intuition, take action, and trust the process. And so it is.